have much time left. People talking about things they don't need to be talking.
Just Dave, on timer?
Yeah. I told him if you don't get it done now, you have to do it, come back and do it. Because we have an executive session.
Oh, at the end of the night.
I do have one hundred.
Yes. Yes, in case we need that. What time is it? That clock anymore.
Oh, that clock isn't right, is it? Yeah. What time is it, John?
It's 35 minutes.
Oh, right there.
So, how's the baby?
She's getting better, I guess, her numbers are where they can bring her home, but they don't want to bring home the doctor.
Okay. I mean, you know.
The numbers on oxygen.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that can be a little scary.
she hasn't turned purple for 3 or 4 days. So she's not breathing. It's scary.
Mine went from Montpelier to Pocatello the day after
Really.
in a ambulance.
Ambulance? Yeah, they took Katie from an ambulance to UBCC.
But his was projectile vomiting. He spent 4 days down there.
Well, and I guess what's nice is Lawrence first was in the NICU for 2 weeks. Now he's the toughest kid you've ever seen. So, skinny, doesn't put any weight on.
Yeah.
Thrill seeker. Doesn't break his neck.
Are they in kindergarten?
What's that?
Did they start kindergarten yet?
Preschool for
Preschool.
Will, that's Lawrence. And preschool next year for Katie's.
Okay. On the year off.
And I think Aaron's that same age, he's in preschool too. And James is gonna be homeschooled, Alex is.
Oh.
I couldn't do it.
She wasn't homeschooled. Is it because of just the area and the school district? They're just,
Yeah.
hey, Travis.
Oh, that's probably a kid that needs, I think, needs school.
Yeah. My brother's youngest granddaughter, she started kindergarten this year, and it was absolutely needed. She's an only child, and oh my goodness. And mother kind of just let her do whatever, whenever. And
James just doesn't
No
play well with
boundaries.
others. He plays with others all the time,
Mhm.
but he just doesn't play well with others. He needs more.
I think my brother's other daughter, granddaughter should be, gonna be, just turned 12. And she's probably taller than you are. Her dad was super tall. And I think she's got some kind of like autism, Asperger's, but super high functioning. But she's very introverted and, like you say, has no social skills at all. And, you know, her tablet is her comfort. It just doesn't mix well with others. She's tried every activity under the sun and just doesn't do well with others.
Of course, I had to get mustard on my cookie.
Oh. napkin right here. Ouch. I guess you could get a paper towel back in the kitchen. That battery must have died or something, because it doesn't even look like the thing's going around.
Do it the right way.
Is Caleb here tonight?
He is. They're all here.
All nine are here
All
tonight.
right.
Had that for a while. I never can figure out how to reset these atomic clocks.
I don't know that Gene always does it. Jared's done it.
Okay.
Yeah.
There you go.
Nothing going, just so you know. Jared, I did check all the miles. I switched the batteries out on this one,
Okay.
so I'll let you turn them on when you get ready. This, Ryan's resetting that clock, so I guess we have about 15 minutes.
What's the key? Reset?
Should, yeah. See if it does it.
So John, that was.
Good.
You guys ever swam in the Crater Homestead?
I've been there. Joe did his senior project there.
No. I feel like I've been baked.
What?
I
Yeah.
feel like I've been baked. Hot.
Have you done the bottom, go down to the bottom?
We went 45 feet today. We only can go 60, but at elevation, that's 45 feet is all that I'm allowed with my certification.
Okay. The funny thing about it is because it's got a hole in the top, it's an open water certification.
In a fairly confined space.
Got an application today. Which should ship in the next 60 to 90 days. It's the first one.
Good.
The lifts will be here September.
Okay.
got close to them.
Okay.
So this one, you're talking about physical.
It's physical, part of it is the hearing section.
All right, that's good to know.
So there's the reality.
Promoted up to the next.
Really?
And our.
It's 6 of them, 7 are the same, one didn't make it, and then three clerk, one clerk, one conductor, she went to all the others, 10 of them. And she was very excited, very stressful for her. They did set a dance over
That is
something the night before. They had to
Okay, I think I
Really?
So they were all on the same.
Because I didn't put the lifts in the budget.
Is it hot in here or is it just me?
It's a little bit hot.
It's a little
Okay.
stuffy in here.
Don't
Don't freak me out.
We're right on Travis.
What's a little chilly? It'll set at 64.
Wow. Yeah, you
Hello.
will freak me out.
How are you?
Hey, Scott.
How are you?
Good to see
Good
you.
to see you. You snuck in quiet.
Hello, Sharon.
Good.
Hey, it's 12 o'clock.
Is this your regard last month?
Yes, it is. It's my last hurrah.
There's no issue with
Not even close. To the every day of the other. Not even close. There are some of that.
How you going?
Definitely.
Yeah.
They didn't throw you out?
You know, but I could walk away.
Oh.
Yeah. If I paid $200 by now, I haven't thrown me away. If you're wondering, I'll let you know that I am important.
I just didn't want you to have a moment.
No, I got you. Good thinking.
We're telling you, you know?
Truth. That's like there's
Oh, yeah. That's fine.
Yeah, how does that? To figure it out, so to speak.
We've got to figure it out, so.
Yeah, she liked it. She enjoyed it. Thanks for letting her do that.
Yeah, there's something else.
Yeah, there was, for whatever reason, the old computer system allowed somebody to put in $11 an hour times 2, and it looked at it as $11. Yeah, $22 an hour. So, I didn't do the math on it, if it was 40 hours to see what I have.
They don't. I got cheap, but I said, okay, we'll do, right. I mean, we'll do. Okay, we won't do that. All right. Let's just do it right. I said, okay.
Did you bring your garbage forms?
You said you had movies.
I'll take it home.
Give me that. You were the one that had a meeting.
I think there's a little bit of fear.
For you?
Yeah, go on, yeah, that.
Uh-huh. When's the last time you played garbage?
Sunday. Yeah.
Well, there you go.
And yourself?
It's been probably a couple weeks.
And?
Oh, I was.
Oh, I go, you know, this is good to hear.
Yeah, it's okay.
I'm excited about it. I wanted to do it over lunch once.
Well, you keep saying that, but come up with a day. You and I are both like running crazy, so let's figure this out. I thought about texting you and saying, okay, you want to be early and we can play before this.
We're back to 12 o'clock. Yeah, good luck with that.
Yeah, I know.
All right, we will get it done before it's over.
I'll bring you some Kleenex so when you start crying.
Okay. Guess this clock is above my pay grade. There's a set button. Just the last time I went through track, just sort of drugs. I changed the battery.
Right.
Sheila and I spent today rounding from Peter to Paul with families that one kid had money and the other didn't. But we're still smart. 66. They paid almost 400 of those teachers. So that'll get covered as soon as it comes out of their check.
Yeah, close.
That's what the vibes are.
We're gonna need to look at whether we want to send people's collection. Maybe one family that said almost 1,000 of us is one family. Exactly.
When it's 6:30, we're done. Well, you probably have the longest presentation. Maybe Scott.
I hope not.
Well, I don't know questions. Yeah.
I'm hoping if they release that paper, it doesn't decide to.
That's what I'm saying.
That's what you already did.
It doesn't, it'll be 4 or 5 pieces. I pushed the set button and it moved, it just went back to 12 o'clock. What time is it? 5:50. 5:50?
5:54. By the time you get one, it'll be 5:55.
Well, there's a ladder here.
I was gonna say, get him.
Can you reach that? Well, I already took Jared's again to do that. But, yeah, real close.
Look at that.
Now if it drops, we can take it on special.
Then turn it, hey, turn the bottom of it just a little bit to the right.
All right.
Yep. Little bit.
How many newsletters does it take to
Look,
change
there you
clock?
go, right there.
About a quarter inch, Jim.
Thank you, Matt. That's not even fair.
To get that main pin, after we turn it on, you have to hold it for a second so that the main pin goes off. So come on. And then bump that red button again. Hold on.
Testing 1, 2.
Sorry, I just want to see.
You guys think you're just gonna get through it there?
Yeah, we'll get it in time. I was like, never want to be live, so but it was good, it's good for a while.
I don't have to
Right
worry
up.
about my business.
Yeah, you placed one right between us. You said, oh, it's fun.
Do what I can.
Yeah.
You're on the wrong driver, that's the whole driver. So, I did it. I'm watching.
Are you guys gonna be using the projector?
No.
Turn these on. saying about my vocabulary.
Yeah. So he sent us a slip piece of his hip that he's done to do this.
Did you ask him for instructions to duplicate that?
Wait, he can't.
Oh, it's his.
No, he just, it's like, there's some good stuff, but it's not as good as it will be if you move it.
Well, actually, we can use numerous quotes.
So it's interesting. There'll be 20 minutes. It's like, there's absolutely no process to this.
No,
Does it?
Does it help?
Sure.
Increases coverage. Northern Stoops are actually good. Trust me.
Yeah. This is good.
Hello. Wow, it's a long ways out there.
So it's a mess.
How's the baby? He's good. Very good.
Good. Good, good.
Appreciate it.
How's the what?
Just new baby.
Sorry, I didn't know it out.
Yeah. 3 months old. We had him in the NICU for a week.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's a boy or a girl?
Little boy.
Awesome. And he's good now?
Yes. Yep. Good. What was that? Yes.
You guys figured it out. He's
No, you know what? My grandpa said that's going to stay in the max this year. And we were all like, yeah, right. And I think he's right.
We have an internship.
All the rain's been keeping us.
It's all right. I think next year.
Each one of those can send each other.
Really?
Yeah. It's just tall.
Oh, it's great. We have
And all of our meadows are all just growing.
yeah, if we get some heat.
Everybody here? It is now 6:06, and I'm calling to order the Union County School District Number 1 Board of Trustees meeting. Anyone to go into the board meeting? I need a motion to approve that.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. We'll go into the meeting. Please join me for the national, no, it's not national anthem, I don't want to hear anything. Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So I need a motion to approve the agenda as identified.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the agenda as presented for the evening.
Second.
I have a motion, I have a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Motion carries. Okay, I need a motion to approve the consent agenda items A, B, and C as identified on the documents for the school board meeting.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
I have a first and a second. Any discussions?
Yes, Chairman, I need to recuse myself from check 121877.
Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. Okay, we are now going into our presentations.
Come on down, Scott. So our first one is Evanston Rec District Annual Operating Agreement. Come on down.
Here we are. Do I look better tonight, Dave?
You do, I like to
Okay.
see.
Very good.
You can tell us about the memo.
I did.
He's not in
It was
purple.
purple, so I'm red tonight. Okay. Obviously, I'm Scott Ehlers. I'm from the Evanston Parks and Rec. And I've submitted the operating agreement that has been in place for a long time between the school district and the Parks and Rec. And within that agreement, I need to hit a couple of things, and I don't want to use a lot of your time, but this is more so everybody has an understanding of how it all works and the gives and the takes and the partnerships that do go on. I mean, you've probably looked through that agreement. It hasn't changed in a very long time, and it has stayed consistent throughout probably the last 30 years or so. And there's always some questions, and I'm here to answer those questions, and I'd love to answer those questions. And so please do, if you have a question along the way, please let me know. I know there's been some discussion on whether the mill levy is worthwhile between the Parks and Rec and the school, or Uintah County School District number 1. I know that it comes up a lot. And so what I've done is, I emailed this to Sherry. The last 2 pages, I've kind of put an outline together that shows what the partnership entails. And it's really, and I'll say this it's just my little speech, is that, this day and age, so many partnerships just go away. And we kind of lose that camaraderie, so to speak. And so I think the partnerships that go away, seem to just go away forever at that point. And I think it's sad. And so there's a lot of loyalty and partnerships and give and takes that go on, every day. And so what I put together is, on those last 2 pages, is what's in jeopardy if the mill levy goes away for the Parks and Rec. And so if you look through there are 3 main areas. Now, I did put some numbers there for cost. That's really hard to do, because it's hard to quantify water, and it's hard to quantify electricity, and it's hard to quantify some of those things. So but it's pretty close. And so there are 3 main areas that would go away, where the school would then accept that responsibility. And the first one is Aspen. And I'm going to hit each one of these, but Aspen's the first one, EMS is the second one, and the ball field at the high school is the third one. So in all three of those different areas, that mill levy helps to control and help with the turf program that goes on up there. And within that turf program, that's a lot of work. It's really quite amazing. And I didn't understand how much work it was until actually just lately. It takes care of utilities, it takes care of labor, it takes care of gas, it takes care of water. If the irrigation thing breaks, we fix it. We mow it, we aerate it, we sweep it in the springtime, we level it, and then we paint chalk lines on it for the baseball team. Now, one thing to consider lately is, since we're seem to be in this monsoon time, every afternoon we are up there sweeping the water off the field so that they can play baseball. In fact, I was down there sweeping just the other morning and raking the turf so that they can play. It's really quite amazing the time that is consumed there. And so that's in place. If we then talk about Aspen, Aspen is a large area. That is a lot of turf up there. And that's where the soccer program is. Yep. And so if we're giving that back to the school, Jaron and his group would then be mowing it and doing all those turf programs, as well as painting the soccer lines about every 2 weeks, and putting porta-johns up there. Now, I had a real cool saying I was going to say there, but I'm amongst a lot of professionals, and so I'm not going to say it. But those porta-johns are expensive. I probably should have gotten that business a while ago, because they do make a lot of money on porta-johns. So you'd have to rent the porta-johns for up there also. There's just a lot of...
Do they rent them for the season?
They rent them for the season, and there's 4 of them. And they're right at $300 a month, each one. It's pricey.
Is that what they call honey buckets?
Yep, yeah, exactly. And so they're really pricey, but there's the turf program that goes on at Aspen is huge. That's a large one. And we do paint those lines, like I said, every 2 weeks. And that's a lot of paint. So there's a lot of expenses there. The next one would be EMS. EMS of all 3 of them is probably still is demanding, but not as demanding as the other 2. Okay. Any questions with those at all? Nope. Okay. And then
I guess I do for Aspen. That's for rec league soccer, correct?
Well, here's how, let me explain how that works. That's a good question. It's not rec league soccer. It's their own soccer program. Now, they do pay us an O&M fee, and so I'll hit that, which is a good point. The O&M fee is set up, it's $10 a kid. Now, they have a lot of kids, and so that's about $4,000 they do contribute to that O&M. But there's 14 outlaws are in that baseball group, so that's $280 for an entire baseball season. So it's not real lucrative, let's put it that way. So the soccer is, but it's extremely demanding and takes a lot of time. Does that answer your question?
It does a little bit. Going back to painting, I've heard from some coaches, and I know, Bubba, you painted. How many times you paint that soccer field yourself last year?
We did the Bear State.
So that's not this
no,
right here. So that's excluded. So all high school painting we handle.
We handle, yeah, for the Bear Ponds and for the EMS.
Okay. Well, good job, by the way. You've done a lot of painting. Well done. So, okay. Answer most of my questions.
Okay. If you go down to the Bear Meadows, we've not done it this year. It's the first year, but we did do the soccer program down there. So they were down there practicing, and so that was all part of the deal. And I do understand they're back at the high school field now. So that was in play, but out of play. We do cross-country meets for the middle school down at the Bear, and we also do those out at the golf course. And so when those happen, we isolate areas so that the golfers are away from them. So it does take away tee times. But we work around that. Let's see. Throughout the district, there's parks in use. If classes want to go to the parks, there's no charge for any of those things. The Bear Building, the teachers groups, the banquets, and the EEA meetings, if they have those there, they don't have to pay for any of those things. They just reserve them and move on. And then traveling teams, which is the traveling basketball teams, we'll organize those and get them into schools as needed, and we work with Bubba in his office to do those things. A couple of the big ones up at the Recreation Center, and I've watched this for the last 4 years. There's senior night when they come up and they spend, and we have to put people on the personnel to take care of those things when the seniors come up and do their all-night affair up there. We do, probably the biggest one there is the grade schools. And I watch those little nuggets come up there, and they're swimming, and they're using the gymnasium, and they're having a great time. And so they enjoy the heck out of that. And then the classics came up there, and they like to use the dance room because it's got the mirrors. And they were pretty successful this year. And so they come up and use that a lot. Basketball teams, we've had basketball teams in there at times when there's conflict, so Bubba has called us with that. And if you take all that into account, it's about $80,000 if they were to pay for those things, with general admission and all those different units. So it adds up pretty quickly. One of the biggest games in play would be the golf course. So this, right at the present, it's $600. And with that $600, they get tee times, they get range, they get kind of really whatever they need out there. Now, if you put money to it, that's pretty cheap. Because you got 20 golfers plus 2 coaches, and they use a lot of range balls. They hit a bunch. And we just let them hit them, and they can get them and hit them again. But, they're pretty good golfers, but they don't always hit them straight. They tend to hit them out into the grass where they don't like to walk very much. So there's that. They do an invitational meet at the end of the year, up in August, and that's on a Thursday, Friday normally. And with that in play, we shut the course down basically for them. Now we're averaging about $3,000 to $4,000 a day with golf. It's a pretty busy place right now. The other thing that would come into play is we've done state meets there, quite a few times. I can think of 3-ish. Probably in the last, 15 years or so, there's been 3 state meets there. If that were to happen, they probably would now have to pay green fees for all that. And so the state is probably not going to pay for that. So there probably wouldn't be a state meet there for quite a while. And now that does a couple of things. I don't think it's great because, it's there. We're there for the kids, and so we should be able to host a state meet. And if we don't, if this all falls apart, it's just not a cool thing, quite honestly, in my opinion. And so then that hurts the town of Evanston too, because then all those 4A teams or 3A, whichever it is, they're just not coming to town anymore. So there's a lot of things in the background that people don't think of, but they're in play. It is what it is. And so if I can step back to the little kids that come up to the rec center, the thing that quite honestly is important to me, and I'm not here to sway your decision one way or the other, quite honestly. You know, I'm just here to enlighten you that there's a lot in play. And the biggest thing in play is the kids. You know, because I just don't think they're going to want to pay general admission. I don't think they're going to come to the rec center for their parties at the end of the year. I just don't think they'll come that way. You know, because it's just more money, more money, more money. And I know the budgets can't handle it. You know, that's just a chunk of change. And I don't know that parents deserve that either. You know, so it's, you just have to be cautious, because in the long run, I think it's the kids that are going to suffer through the whole thing. And they'll have to pay the cost at some point. Okay?
I have a few questions for you, Scott, if
Okay.
you don't mind.
Not at all.
With the sharing, so if the rec center is utilizing school district gyms for co-ed volleyball, regular volleyball, all of those services with the power, the lighting, the things that you also have to take into account for, is there any, we can't take any compensation. We're a school district entity, right? So we can't get paid to utilize our facilities. So there is an agreement, I think that's maybe not presented very well here, is that, yeah, we utilize your services, but also the rec center uses a lot of our services as well. And I think that is still beneficial.
It is true, yeah. Yeah, I think it's a great partnership. No, you're exactly right. I'm not here to say it's just a one-sided rec center. I'm not at all. I think it's just a great partnership where we just keep working together. That's really where I fall with the whole thing.
Chairman Peterson, if I may, members of the board, just so we don't get a lot of press on this, there has been some discussion, but I don't think anyone's discussed on the board or members of the board or even in our district about doing away with the mill. That represents the partnership that's been in place for a long time. We have seats on the rec center board because of that mill. I think what really is in play is we are the assessing agent for that mill, and the mill changes value based on county assessment. So for a long time, it was $285,000. Now the assessed valuation is up over $500 million, which means that mill will be over $500,000. One mill will be $500,000. What people have brought to me is the concept of, can we work on this agreement maybe to have some cut point? 80% of the mill will go to the board, 20% will go to rec projects in our district, 70-30, whatever, to work that out. Because just like the rec center, we have facility needs that continue to blossom and bubble, but I've never heard anyone say, no, we're going to do away with the mill and leave the rec center in Lurch. That's, in my opinion, an extremely important relationship and a partnership that we want to continue. In the past, there's been some confusion and rumors, and I think Uintah County School District has always been a good partner to try to uphold our end and willing to do whatever we can to support recreation in our community. But that hasn't changed. I think as the mill will continue to increase, I believe, because of the assessed valuation, there is a little room that we can say, okay, can some of that money go to our domes, and set it so it twilights sometime, and we can work together on that. Again, because the kids in this community will benefit from those domes. That's, I think, the big part. But we never, ever, I haven't heard anyone say, do away with the mill. That's not even on the board. But maybe sharpening our pencils with the agreement, it hasn't been adjusted for a long time, to work out something that works for both of us. That's the partnerships do.
That's what we should do.
I would also at this point suggest that with a month before this is approved, it's probably not good we do that this year, but I think we put that in the work for maybe the future. And if it's just not doable, then it's not doable, but I think in a partnership we can work that out.
So I got a question for you then. So the mill that the city or the Parks and Rec will get this year is going to exceed $500,000?
Yes. Go ahead.
Okay, so my presentation has a discussion on that, but basically, there are district mills and there's county mills. And the rec center is assessed on the district mill, which are, the district mill right now is $309,000.
So the county is the half
The
million.
county's $519,000, but the only thing that's assessed to that is the 6 mill amounts.
Yeah.
Whereas the 25, the BOCES, all of those things go against the district assessed valuations.
I'm confused on that.
Me too. Say that again.
Say that one again. Just so.
What I'm saying is that there's two different things that are being valued. One is the county as a whole, and one is Uintah County property in Uintah County boundaries.
Uintah County 1.
Uintah 1.
So 4 and 6 are also assessed differently.
So you got two pots?
Two pots of money.
Right.
And so
So we get so much out of the county.
so we get so much out of the county, but it's only the 6 mil amount.
Now,
And so that is not quite, it'd be 519,000 for 1 mil of the county, and we have to split that with the other
the other,
entities. So just, I'll kind of go over that.
okay.
So, just so that we have,
So what you're saying is the rec center wouldn't be getting a $500,000
so the
Budget.
rec center.
or
Yeah.
part of the mill?
The rec center gets .001, 1 mil. It's $309,000 is coming from that. Okay? It's not
not
bidding
over
against
half a
the
million.
entire county,
Then they get the county.
okay?
No.
No.
Oh, they don't.
So when I send that, the notice to the county commissioners, they're running that against the Uintah County 1 boundary,
No, okay.
309,000.
Okay.
Thank you for clarification. Is there any other discussions or questions for Mr. Eaters? None? Mr. Thomas? None?
It's not as much money as I thought to split,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah.
But our assessed valuation should continue to
It
improve.
should continue, yeah.
Price of home should.
All righty, anything else, Scott?
Just one last thing. This is my last hurrah. I wore the red shirt, so please tattoo that in your mind. But I'm moving, I don't know if I'm moving on, but I'm moving out. And so, so I'm going to be out of the director business, and I've appreciated, the last 4 years. I think it's been great. I think things have changed considerably. Not because of me. I was just at the top of the heap when the tribe took over and did a great job. And so I appreciate the partnership, if that's how you want to say that, the partnership, and the last 4 years have been really, really fun, quite honestly. I mean, not all of it, but some of it was but really, for the most part, it was great. And I appreciate y'all, because you are a big part of the Evanston Parks and Recreation District.
The golf has been good.
The golf has been pretty good. Yeah. Can't complain with that.
Well, and Scott, you're selling yourself short. You've done a fantastic job turning that around. You really have. I was there for it, but it was really the tribe underneath me. I just had to get on their shoulders and make them think. Yeah, but it takes someone to organize and lead that tribe, and you did a fantastic job.
I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Scott.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Scott.
All righty, we have another presentation.
Chairman Peterson, members of the board, I'm just going to have Dr. Ingalls kind of update you on what we're looking at with our HRS certification.
Chairman and members of the board. It's good to be with you on this beautiful, well, it keeps changing. It gets sunny, then it gets a little rainy, and but it was beautiful most of the day. It's our privilege to talk about our HRS Level 3 and what has happened in the district with that piece, which is the Guaranteed and Viable Curriculum. I'm going to start by just going over what those indicators look like and discussing them briefly. There are three leading indicators that I'll go through, and then Mr. Rigby will go through the other 3 indicators, and then we can talk a little bit about what the progress has been made as we move forward. The first one, 3.1, is the school curriculum and accompanying assessments adhere to state and district standards, and that has, there's evidence to show that that has occurred and continues to occur. The second one, the school curriculum is focused enough that it can be adequately addressed in the time available to teachers. Really, that's the viability part of that you have the curriculum, but you can have this big, lofty curriculum based upon a whole bunch of standards, but if you don't have the time to teach it, it's not viable. It's just a document that sits there and looks pretty. I can tell you that there's a number of situations where you may not have the ownership that we have within our district as far as the curriculum is concerned, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. Well, that curriculum sits on a shelf and looks really nice on a website, but when you actually get at what's being taught in the classroom, it's something that's much different. For the first time in our district's history, we have a written curriculum, K-12. We have that curriculum written in all content areas, and I'll talk briefly as well about the work that we've done in PE at the elementary, and I know at the secondary, the work that we've done in music, the work that we've done in computer science, which is new in the basket of goods, the work we've done with the media, as well as the work that we've done with science. Currently in the K-5 area, science, and I'll give you more additional figures. We have one school that was almost 14 percentage points above the state average in their science scores on the Y-top. So thinking about the work that we're doing as far as curriculum is concerned, we're moving ahead. You also have to remember that we have 4 Title I schools at the elementary level. That means that you have at least 40% of the students who qualify for free and reduced lunch. That's the crisis of poverty that's raising its head. When we interview, and I was talking with Mr. Rigby about this, when we interview candidates from other places, and they say, well, I student taught in a Title I school. Well, you know what, we have all 4 of our schools are Title I schools. And the only reason you become a Title I school is based upon need, and that need has to be maintained. So keeping that in mind with the work that we continually do is pretty important for you to really keep in the back of your minds, especially as we start talking about the things that we're doing with assessments and we start to move on and beyond that. But the third is all students have the opportunity to learn the critical content of the curriculum. That means that across the district, they have that opportunity. Today, we have 60 teachers from the district K-5 who are meeting, working on curriculum. That means that the second day after their Crazy Friday, which was the last day of school, they're sitting down and they're doing that work. And it's challenging work, but they have ownership in this. Curriculum needs to come from the people who are actually teaching, that are part of that, and that's the way you do curriculum. You don't do curriculum from the top. You facilitate curriculum from the top, but it doesn't come from the top. The encouragement, what you do, providing resources, that kind of thing comes from the work that we can do in our office. But where that really happens is the work that's happening over at North Elementary this week, and I know it happens at the high school as well. Come on over and take a look and see what's happening over there. You'll see some smiling faces. You'll see some that have furrowed brows because they're working really hard. And when you have 60 people sitting and talking about curriculum and what's important and defining what students need to know and be able to do, how they're going to assess that and determine whether kids are learning, what they're going to do if kids aren't learning, and what they're going to do if kids are learning. That's the work that's being done right now, and that fits in with that 3.3. So
3.4 is really about clear and measurable goals, and all of our schools have clear and measurable goals that are tied to student achievement. We look at what are the most critical needs that you have in your school, and how are you developing goals to measure that, to call it progress monitoring, to see how we're improving. 3.5 is really about the analysis and interpretation of the data. So what protocols, what systems do you have in place in your school to ensure that you are regularly analyzing that data and how you're interpreting that data and how it's adjusting what you're doing in the classroom. And then the last one's really about your intervention system. So what is the intervention system that you have in your particular school? How do kids get placed into the intervention system? How do they exit out of the intervention system? And how are you monitoring that to make sure that that intervention system is being effective? Is it meeting the need that you've set out? So, just in a nutshell, the high reliability schools framework is really designed to put the school improvement work and process in the schools. Each school is different. North has different needs than Uinta Meadows. EMS has different needs than Davis Middle School. And Horizon and EHS, certainly different needs, right? So for us, it's not about us at a district level saying, well, this school needs to improve on this and this school. The high reliability schools framework is really about placing that at the school level. It's based on a hierarchy of what we know what great schools do. But at the end of the day, the schools use a series of surveys of their staff, of their students, of their parents to determine on those indicators, right? We talked about how the connection between KPIs, right? How are we doing in relation to those indicators? Where are we strong? Where do we need to improve? And then the school staff itself determines what are the next steps? What are we going to do to fix that? And how will we know if that fix is actually having the impact that we wanted it to have? So, don't know what else. If you have any questions, we're happy to answer any questions.
Let me just add to that a little bit about what's happening with the elementary. The elementary principals and staffs have decided to move forward and strive to get the Level 3 certification this year. All 4 elementaries have put in, initially through Jan Haig, who was our initial caller reviewer. What she did is looked at it, she gave advice, she said, yeah, you're ready to submit this for final approval. 2 of our elementary schools have heard back already and have received that GVC certification. 2 of those elementary schools are still waiting to hear back. What we know that happens at the end of the year is a lot of schools submit things, but we're proud of the work that each of our elementaries, all it is a matter of time for the other elementary schools to receive that certification, and then we'll bring that to you in the fall as we begin to move forward and recognize all of them at the same time. So that's something to look forward to. As well, I want to compliment the principals on the work that they've done, their leadership at each one of the school levels. Again, it isn't the district who's receiving high reliability school level 3. We are part of that process and work, but it's individual schools and the work that they continue to do through the PLC process and application of that process that actually makes the difference. And next year, the elementary principals, as we discussed it, we're looking at that level 4 certification. I know that's beyond the initial goals that have been set by the board, but it's just an area that we think we're ready for that, and we'll continue to move forward in that direction. A lot of the 2 indicators that are part of that, we're pretty confident that we're meeting those, and we'll just need to demonstrate that and receive that recognition at that point in time. I'm proud of the work that our K-12 leadership team has done in this process. It's not an easy process as you lead a group of people through level 1, level 2, and level 3 certification. For those of you who went to the HRS conference, it's a big deal. And right now we're moving into that upper echelon of schools in our country that have actually met that and are exceeding those level 1, 2, and 3 expectations and moving beyond that. So we're proud of the work that has been done by our teachers, as well as the work that our leadership has provided for them. So thank you.
Just to add, remember, once you recertify a level, you certify level 1, level 2, and level 3 again. So again, our hats off to our elementary schools for being ready. You remember our district strategic plan, the expectation was we were going to work to have all of our schools level 3 certified by 2024 in May. So we're still on that path. Our elementaries just seem to be overachievers right now. So good. That's
great. It's a little different process as we move forward between what we're doing K-5 and what's happening 6-12. So again, we're proud of the work that's been done K-12 as we look.
Yeah, thank you.
Question for you. With ACT scores, have we gotten back where we were from last year to this year, an increase? What did you guys see there?
So those guys aren't here. I don't want to steal their thunder. I can tell you that we are at a 7-year high on our ACT score. So, but I think they'll all report on that. We'll make sure that we report on that. Excuse me, sorry. We do a report in August when we have all of the data is back and unembargoed and all of that kind of stuff. So in August, we typically, Dr. Ingalls and I will present our school data from the previous year, but that will definitely be part of it. But to answer your question, ACT scores this year were, I believe, 7-year high.
So that was a good sneak peek for August. Thank you.
Any other questions?
I do like that you guys did it twice this year. That I think it made a big difference.
So a couple of things that I think did make a difference. We did the fall ACT, and then we also, our curricular teams have spent a lot of time aligning to the external assessment of White Top and have now worked their way up to the 11th grade in the ACT, which is different. ACT doesn't follow the Wyoming Content and Performance Standards, so you've got to walk a real delicate line when you do that, but our teachers have put a lot of effort into science, math, and English, aligning the 11th grade work to the ACT. So there's a lot.
I just hope we keep doing that. I think it was, my junior definitely benefited from it, so I hope
yeah. And the cool thing was it cost us about half of what we thought it was going to cost.
Oh, even better.
Cool.
And we're grateful for the support of the board and the work that we're doing. Thank you very much, and we'll continue to move forward with that work. So,
thank you.
Thank you very much.
Members of the board, I'll turn the time over to CFO Williams to talk about the draft budget.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, on May 2nd, I presented a kind of a draft budget to you based on the information that we had at the time. After that, we had meet and confer, and then on May 15th, I submitted the budget memo and just a discussion of where we are. So tonight, I'm giving you a further update. We've got about 46 days until the budget hearing, and I can tell you that every day I get changes in personnel and things like that. So tonight's discussion, I've got 9 slides, including the cover. So it's not terribly long, hopefully, depending on the discussion. But that's the goal, okay? So the first thing is, and I realize we've got new board members, so I kind of have to go back and a little bit talk on the basics. So we're going to focus tonight on the revenues. Last time we focused more on the expenditures. Tonight's more on the revenues. And so the general fund is the largest fund. We have some other ones like special revenues and that are governed by the grant itself or the grants themselves. But the general fund revenues is really just it's a formula of 2 parts. So general fund revenues equals the guarantee amount by the state. Okay, the state says you will get X amount, $41 million, plus what I call off-guarantee revenues. Okay, so where do we get the number? The number comes from an Excel file called the WDE 100. You'll hear that. It's an important kind of fact. When you hear WDE 100, that means how we're deriving what number to predict. And so it's just an Excel file. It's quite it's got a lot of attachments and things like that and things. So the 100 helps figure out what the guarantee is. And then the off-guarantee amounts are the stuff that the 100 doesn't predict, but we also know there's coming in. For instance, interest income. Okay? Wyoming retirement reimbursement. So I submit a report to the state, and the state says, hey, you got $44,000 coming this month. Okay? Multiply that by 12-ish, and you get, roughly the Wyoming retirement reimbursement amount. Tuition revenue. We charge Utah, in fact, I did it today, $68,000 to educate 4 students that live on the other side of the border, rather than South Summit coming, sending a bus all the way up and then going all the way back to campus. Okay? It's a deal for them, and we charge full price. I mean, it is the full price on that. And we set up an agreement. So those are the off-guarantee amounts. Add them together, that's kind of the amount of revenues we get. So the guarantee from the 100, how is that derived? Well, there's two parts. There's what the state will provide and what the local government, through levies and taxation, provides. Okay? And so it's a partnership with the state. We are not able to fund the entire education program ourselves, whereas if you're up in Camer or Pinedale, you've got enough. The state resources are almost zero. I say almost. Okay. And so that guarantee amount is kind of a mixture of those two. So local resources. What are local resources? Well, if you add up the value of all of the land, all the property, all the railroads, all the airports, everything, you go to Lori at the county office and she says, here's the value, and they certify that value. That's the assessed valuation. And she does it at the county level, and she does it at the UN01 boundary level. Okay, so we have the county level, and then she divides it into 3 different things for the 3 different districts that are here in UN01. And then we apply a levy rate. Okay, and the levy rates have a really weird name called mills. It's like 1/1000th of a percent. Okay, so this graph right here has a lot of information. The first thing that at least grabs my attention is the graph. What's the graph? And the graph is the assessed valuation of both the county and our district going back to 2002. And I just highlighted the highs and the last number, 519,149.56. That was what I've received from the county yesterday. So it's as current as yesterday. Now, in talking with Lori Perkins, she says that there might still be some railroad that is not fully there. So that may bounce just a little bit, but not much. You can kind of count on that. And then the $309 million is UN01. You as a board can levy the district portion, okay? And that's where, the county commissioners can do the entire county, and you as a board get to do, kind of what you control or are there. So the state says, hey, you need to, and this is a requirement for every district, you need to have an assessed valuation of 0.025 or 25 mils times the district assessed valuation of all the property that's in UN01. Okay, that goes to the district. And then we have a 0.0025 times the district assessed valuation is for UNABOCES. There's 2 mills that the voters approved. Remember a few years back, approved the BOCES amount. Well, 2 mills the voters did, and then a ½ mil the board set. You have set that. And that goes to the BOCES. And then there's a 0.002, or roughly $61,000, that we have in the past, going back, I want to say about 8 or 9 years, to CBAR-V. And remember, Dan Mayer came and he said, hey, support this. This is the major maintenance, and it'd be great if every county were to assess it. You remember that, okay? Not every county assesses it. Lincoln One doesn't assess their thing to CBAR-V. That's up to the board, okay? And then there's a 0.01 times the district assessed valuation for the rec levy, okay? And then, so I've said, right now, I've got 28.7 mills levied on the district assessed valuation amounts. So 28.7 mills times 309,000 is the amount that the county will start taxing based on the district. Now, there's also 6 mills, or .006, that the county also hits for all of the value of the county. And then they proportion it out. So we have roughly 64% of the kids. And so we get 64% of .006 times the county assessed valuation of $519 million. Okay, clear as mud? Sorry, sorry, there's just a lot of math on this one, on that. The main thing I hit in colored highlights. Assessed valuation is just the taxable amount that's in the county or the zone. We have 28.7 mills that are going to be levied by the district. And then there's another 6 mills that's levied by the county. Each district mill is about $309,000, and each county mill is $619,000. But remember, we only get 64% of that. Okay? You can see where we have oil booms, right here, boom, boom. And this is interesting, okay? Assessed valuation is always on a lag. You're always looking 1 year back and things. So it's starting to increase. My guess is, especially in light of the recent Saudi Arabia thing, you might see that go up even more this next year. The idea is that, okay, there's more domestic mineral production and things. So where is that predicted? Probably up, is my guess. Okay? Any questions?
So you mentioned the CBRV. So districts that don't contribute to CBRV, where does that money go? Does that go back to the district? Does that go back to the state?
So it's not assessed, so it just stays.
It just stays. It's not.
Yeah, their taxpayers are getting a deal.
They would be at 28.5 mills instead of 28.7.
Do they still send kids to the?
Yes.
If they don't do the mill, they can still send the kids up there.
Yes.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Oh, well, that sounds fair.
Yeah.
You still have to pay for
You
the
still have to
kids.
pay for it.
You still have to pay for the kids.
Yeah, we pay full price.
Yeah,
and we don't get a discount.
full price,
Is there a discount?
Little discount.
Little discount. I can't tell, but Matt can.
So, a little good news.
Okay, yeah.
They're building a compressor station up on Clear Creek, and they're drilling 4 new wells.
Yeah. And you would see that in these 2 numbers right here.
Yeah.
These numbers next year, holding everything else constant, will increase, okay? All right, so, okay. Last year, things were so much easier to compute. And then there was Senate File 60 that came in, and it basically said, hey, if you've got mineral amounts, you get to account for them differently. The point of this is this is just a clip from the 100. And it is 9 million, that's what I'm projecting as local resource that we'll get. Okay, that's basically the idea of this slide. But in there are minerals and non-minerals, and the way that the state is now collecting those minerals is weird and different, and it causes everybody. You talk to Terry Brimhoff, she'll tell you that it has made her life
Miserable.
much more difficult, and everybody else in the state, but it is what it is. And so what we've got to do is we have to, the mineral production in the state, the money that is derived, about 1 month to maybe 45 days after they have sold the gas or the minerals, they have to send the money to the state. The state then sends it to the counties then sends it to us. Now, here's the kicker, is that these mineral amounts have not been levied. We'll be receiving money before the tax bill comes due. And what that's saying is this: for fiscal year, most likely, and I'm working with our auditors on this, I've got prior year production that I've received money for, but I haven't earned the money, okay? And so I have to book it, not as revenue, but as deferred revenue. And what that's going to do to our audit is it's going to drive that fund balance down $2 million, okay? It's not saying that we don't have the money, it's just saying we can't claim it right now. It's kind of a little bit of a shell game, but I've got to tell you this up front so that when you open up the audit and you're not going, well, wait a minute, John, why didn't you tell me? Okay? And so this prior year production of minerals is it's like a pump that's going to be primed. Then the next year we'll book that, and then following that we'll start to get, $2 million, and then it's kind of the way it's going to be going. Okay, so I'm not asking you to remember that. I am asking you to.
There will be a quiz later.
Yeah. I am saying, hey, know that it's about $9 million of the $41 million, $10 million-ish, is local resources. That's the main thing, okay? And then just know that there's going to be a little bit of this weird shifting that in the last 2 weeks I found out about that is going to cause fund balance to drive down and things. Okay, so this right here is a screenshot of kind of what I've got in local revenues and things. I'm not going to go over all of them, but I'm just going to point out some things. If you were to add this 7.6 million and then the county portion, you'd get that 9.6 million, okay? And so some of this is going to be mineral and things. These numbers right here are just guesses more than anything. I know what the local amount should be, and so I just kind of backfill that and things. Interest on investments. This is an interesting one. Holy cow, I've had a great year on interest. I would get like, $24,000 on things. I'm up in like $270,000. That 138 is kind of a conservative guess on interest income, okay? Rentals, we get we rent to C. Barbie BOCES, and they pay for the rental of the place that they occupy. We provide IT services, both to them and the BOCES and things. And so you add up all of those, you get 8.4 million, okay? But just know that there are some things that are on model and some things that are off model, and you're kind of seeing that there. County revenues, okay? This is where the 6 mills comes in. And we get, we're estimated 2.009 million and things, okay? It just the bottom line's kind of, okay, 2.4, add them together, you get, that 9.6, and then you get, some off things like the interest income. That's kind of how things are working. Now, you're going to go, oh, wait a minute, what in the world has happened here, okay? The state got in trouble, and I mean big time trouble, like $7 or $9 million trouble that they had to pay the federal government because a couple years, I want to say about 4 years back, they've tried to cap special revenue, and they, much to everybody saying don't do it, they did it, and the federal government said you're not putting enough money into special education. As part of this last budget or legislative session, they split out special education reimbursement. It used to be part of this number right here. See this foundation program? There's no special education reimbursement. Well, we're now starting to do that. And so this is really the non-special ed amount that the state is going to pay us. And this right here is the amount that we're going to pay in special education, but it's a guess, it's a placeholder right now. We haven't done the special education things because the year's not done. I usually go a little bit conservative, but I also don't want to budget ongoing expenses for those one-time, high-cost, big-ticket kid items, like C-bar-V, okay, and things. So I think this is a good number. And then the other state reserved this is the reimbursement for Wyoming retirement. Okay, the bottom line, 31.9 comes from the state. Okay, so just the main thing is okay, we get about $9 million in local, and then $2 million from county, and 31.9. Okay, that's kind of the thing. We do have some transfers that are in there. There's $75,000 that we've booked in the past. That is a transfer from the employee benefit fund into the general fund to help pay for the lifetime of service, and another $22,000 that is from a transfer from student activities to pay for some technology on that. And then we have an estimated $385,000 that is coming in for the buses that we haven't received. They'll come next year. That's the idea, okay? And so you add them up, other revenues, local revenues, and state revenues, okay? Like that. Any questions? Okay. That's the idea. So if you notice, yes, it has increased. Yeah. On that. So between tonight, July 19th, what needs to be done? And there's probably a lot more that I could add this, but these are the main ideas. On the expenditure side, firm up personnel, and what I mean by that is Ryan and Joseph and Doug get changes in personnel. There's people resigning, new hires, and things like that. We're pretty much done with the position changes, but who knows? Sometimes you have to make a shift on that. Adjust health insurance selections. So when I budget, I don't know a person coming in if they're going to be no insurance, family insurance, self-insurance, or single insurance, or whatever. So I just put the full cost. Well, when I get that information, great, that's savings. Okay. The domes are not in the budget right now. Those numbers you see, there's no domes in there. Okay. And Jaron will be speaking next, but the domes are coming in. They're just a tiny bit high, but he's working on it, and I'm holding him to it. The domes will be amended in July. So what we're going to do is we're going to gross up. We'll amend the regular budget, and then we'll gross up the dome amount if that's the choice of the board to move forward. And so, because what's happening with the domes? Well, the domes we're pulling that from savings. It's not coming from. It's one-time money. Mm-hmm. And so on the revenue side, I need to continue to calculate reimbursement amounts for special education and transportation. Matt, and Travis also help out with that. And presently, these are estimates. I've kind of in my mind have said we're going to have the lifts in this fiscal year. And I just found out today that they're not coming until September or August, somewhere around there. Okay, so that means that I've got an encumbrance that's really going to hit next year. So we'll have to make that adjustment. That will be one-time money, and then it just kind of gets reimbursed, and we're off and running. So right now, presently, I've got about $97,000 that I'm in a deficit. I have got more expenses than revenues. Now, out of $43 million, gosh, that's close, and I think we can get that. Ryan can, We'll need to publish the notices in the paper on the 30th and the 7th, although I just talked to Sherry, and she said that the paper's possibly moving to Wednesdays. Okay, so then...
It is. Starts tomorrow.
Okay, so guess what? Those aren't the right dates. They need to be shifted. But they need to be out so that everybody gets notification and things. And then we'll be tying out accounts for state reporting and audit in August. So that's kind of the, where things stand right now. Does anyone have any questions? I know that, the domes is kind of the big one and things, and we'll have a discussion on that. But the other part, I think everything is kind of where it's been compared to last year and the year before. Some of the crazy, that minerals stuff is not my favorite, but, okay, we'll handle that. So, any questions?
What are the railroad numbers?
So, like, how much?
Or just what? It says
so-
you're missing certified railroad
Yeah,
numbers.
so Lori Perkins at County Assessor said the assessed valuation, that 500 and, the 309 million is done, except for, she says, there's some railroad thing, but she says it's really close to what she's got.
Oh.
So that's what it is.
Okay.
So she certifies the assessed valuation. Well, I'm running on a less than 100% certified number.
All right, that makes sense.
Okay? And so that's the idea on that. Okay? Any other questions? Okay. So, the plan is to get, kind of a not a preliminary budget, but here's what we're going to do budget. I'd like to get it kind of nailed down by the end of June. But also know that, sometimes we get information that comes in right after in July, and sometimes there's a little bit tweaks here and there. But, for the most part, everything's there, so, okay? 9 slides. Any questions?
You're making me a liar. I told him we were only be 45 minutes.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, so, no, thank you very much. So, great job, as always.
I understood that. Yep.
Alrighty. Next on the agenda.
Members of the board, have an update on the dome project from Director Dennis.
Chairman Peterson, members of the board. In your board docs, you should see 3 documents. You should see the bid document that Ready Services provided for us, bid document from Sage, and then I kind of compiled an Excel spreadsheet of what we've spent thus far, which is in yellow, and then what we hope to spend. And then as John alluded to, we're a little bit over budget. So, just really quickly, the bidding process, we only had one contractor who came to our pre-bid meeting, which was a mandatory pre-bid meeting. 2 weeks before bid meeting was our bid docs were supposed to be opened, they asked for an extension in trying to get some cement contractors. Because there was only one, we went ahead and allowed it. In the meantime, I was a little bit worried, so I reached out to another company just to kind of have them in my back pocket and have them kind of prepare a bid as well. Long story short, Ready came in at the $1.2 million, which actually was really, really good. The back pocket bid came in at $3.1 million. So I'll keep it in my back pocket right there. What was not included in the 1.2 was the electrical, and we pulled that out of the bid so that we didn't have to pay the extra fees for union. And not that I'm anti-union, but if I can save some funds, we went a different route to do that. And so that's why we have Sage kind of separated out at roughly, round that up to about $300,000. Okay? What's not included with that, if you will remember, is that we went out to bid for concrete, which means that we're responsible for paying concrete, which in the long term saves us a lot of money. But when you look at these bids, that's not included. So if you figure about 1,000 yards of concrete, you're at about $265,000 right there. Okay? As you look at kind of what we've spent so far, our expenditure so far has been about $173,000, and that's been for design services, that's been for trucking, that was getting a rental where we're storing everything at, a small amount for when we purchase that sports court and being able to get that from Washington back down to here. There's some rentals, just the miscellaneous that gets us really to this point right now. As we projected, we've got our electric with Sage at $277. Ready Services right now is at 1.2. Well, recognizing that we were a little bit over what we were anticipating and what you as a board asked me to look at, I spent a good portion of last Friday with Ready Services, kind of going over detailed of everything, and then we went back, and one of the big costs to this is the ADA ramp. As you might recall, we've had 3 designs on that ADA ramp, each time trying to cut that cost down with the amount of cement. So this last time what we did is I had Brent go back and I said, hey, at the high school, on the back side there, where all of our food service parks and where basically our CTE department is, there's that retaining wall that is right there that leads us right up to the tennis courts where the domes are going to be. I proposed to Brent, I said, what if we built that ADA ramp right along that retaining wall, so half that wall is already built, it's already in place, it's structurally sound, and instead of having to navigate corners and stuff like that, we would just make it a solid 96 feet with the appropriate landings where we need to every 20 feet and go from there. And so we then proposed that to Ready and said, okay, you saw the original, now I'd like to have you discount what that would be. And what that does is we don't have to disrupt any of the dirt. We don't have to disrupt the stairs right now that are currently leading up to the domes. We can leave all of that alone and just have our ADA ramp there. Now that'll still allow parking. It'll take about 6 feet out, but you could still have plenty of parking against that ADA ramp, so we're not losing any parking there, but we should have a significant cost. What I'm hoping is about, with that savings and some other savings, I'm hoping to capture somewhere between $200,000 and $250,000, which would be significant. That'll also be a cost savings on our cement because we won't need to have as much cement. And so potentially I could save another $30,000, $40,000 with that. So bottom line, right now as it stands, we're at $2 million. If we have our reductions in costs, which we're hoping for in that $250 plus cement, we're close to that $300,000. That brings us down to that 1.7, which is what we originally had talked about. Here's the downside. Part of that 1.7 was we were hoping to have our FF&E in there, which we don't have. So this is your decision tonight. You've got the information. Sharpening our pencils, recognizing, I went to John, I've gone to Superintendent Thomas, I said, okay, this is where we're at. So I'm presenting those numbers to you tonight with a discussion, and it's your decision to kind of let me know how you would like to proceed.
So I've got one major question.
Yeah.
So, when we first went after these domes, and the individual that was selling the domes, we were sold by the board, to the board, that part of us buying them domes is he was going to come assemble them. What happened to that?
So that cost was there.
The cost was there. I thought the individual that we bought the domes from, part of the agreement when we bought the domes from them, they were going to come up and assist in installing the domes.
There was a cost for that. If we remember where he would come up, but there would be an extra cost for him to do that. And so...
I guess I didn't catch that part of it. I thought part of the cost when we bought them was he was going to come install them.
No. He would be willing to do it, but there was a cost. And as I told him, I said, we'll have to go out to the bidding process. I actually asked, specifically emailed him, I said, hey, are you going to bid on this? John had me, we were hoping maybe, who's our contractor out of Utah? Hogan.
Yeah.
Hogan was going to bid, specifically emailed them a week before the bid opening, or the pre-bid meeting, and said, hey, hope you're planning on, looking forward to seeing you here. Didn't have anybody, so.
Jared, who is Crest?
Crest is Brent Sanders.
Okay, all right, okay. And then part of the bid from Sage Electrical was that there was some issues with some of the product that was like 120 days out. Is that accurate?
Still working on that.
Okay.
They're thinking they might have had something that can put us 45 days out. One big item that's here, and I talked to you guys about it, is our transformer. We have all of our paperwork for Rocky Mountain Power, but they can't give me an estimated time other than they said at that time anywhere from 3 to 6 months. Now the downside to that is we can have everything designed, we can have everything put up, but without that transformer, I have no power. Now I have a contingency for that. In my other back pocket, we'll look at what it would be to bring a generator in to at least inflate and test and go that route, depending on our timeline.
Right.
But with that contingency, there is a price tag with that as well.
Yeah.
Other questions?
Yes. Have we decided, I'm looking here and I lost it. The sports court was a $7,000 cost, according to this.
Yep, and that's here, being stored.
Okay. And so, was that what we bought in Washington?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't see anything for turf.
We don't have that right now. Well, that's part of that FF&E that we talked about.
Okay, all right.
Chairman Peterson, members of the board, if I can, I guess listening and watching your faces, what that means is we have to make a decision. $300,000 for FF&E is probably on the low side. So that takes you to $2 million. One of the things hopefully we can encourage is that those groups that plan to use it should kind of help chip in maybe with some of the FF&E, some of the equipment, booster clubs, fundraising. We would still be responsible for the flooring. We need to put a sound floor in, turf on one side, court on the other. We just need to do that if you're going to do it. It doesn't make sense to do this if we don't.
No.
Again, John and I have already worked the idea. It's about $175,000 a year for 10 years. You're talking $200,000 a year for 10 years if you choose to go forward with this.
That includes your FF&E?
Yes.
Okay.
That's $25,000 additional for 10 years. It's $250,000.
Okay.
But part of that too is, like I said, is if the soccer team wants gold, maybe the soccer booster clubs pitch in. If they want standards, maybe the volleyball team has to pitch in, booster clubs. I don't think that's a bad idea.
No, not a bad idea at all.
But I think we need the funds in place before moving forward. Just can't count on the donations, but we can't count on us. Will there be potential issues that raise the money beyond that? Always. You know, originally the 1.7 included $300,000 for contingency. I don't know where we are with that now.
That's why I said I didn't see contingency in there anywhere either.
I didn't even put it in. Every time I put a number in, it creeps.
Oh, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And there's always contingency.
Yep. That was, remember explicitly as we talked here that we were trying to keep that no higher than the 1.7. And so,
And there's no doubt now, the funds are tight all the way around. This is a one-time expenditure which will significantly reduce our carryover, but we've been pretty resilient over the last 25 years and been able to, actually about the last 15 years, move that carryover from 600,000 to 6.2 million. So I'm confident we can do that, just we have no idea what's coming from the state funding. We have the money in savings right now to do it, but it's just what the board wants to do.
Lighting and air handling, are they in that FF&E number?
not in the FF&E. Lighting is included in the air handler is already part of the solution. Yeah.
I guess one thing, you know, Brent will do a great job, but when you have a $1.2 million quote and it's only 11 pages long, that raises some concerns to me. So it's very vague. And so we're paying Brent a pretty good amount of money. I want the quality control, quality assurance. That's his job. And I think if he's on top of it, I think, you know, it's very vague. If you read through it, not very detailed. And especially some that I work for Ready, they've never done this before. I can tell you that.
They haven't. They were upfront.
With that, we need to make sure Brent's dialed in, which he will be, and I know you'll stay on top of it. So, and that will help with creep. There's always going to be some creep, but change orders will be the death of us if we let it get ahead of us. So.
And I'll tell you. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
What's the cost we have into our road? That's not on here either.
That is. You're right, I forgot that. 42. I just got the bill. 42,000.
Okay.
Got it.
So, Jaron, when would you need notice to proceed?
They are ready to start mobilizing immediately. I told them that I'd be having a board meeting with you guys tonight and have a decision one way or another.
So on the, I was just looking at their schedule and they're saying June 3rd they were supposed to start the Civil Dome Foundation.
And we moved that back. I said,
okay.
I can't sign anything because this is coming from board funds, and so the contract, if we decide to move forward, would be signed by the board tonight and then move forward. So what we determined based on what they have there is we would be an additional week out. You'll notice that their completion date is the end of August, which was actually quicker than what I thought it would be, but kind of where they're at.
Chairman Peterson, members of the board, it's not on the agenda to vote on this, but I would recommend that you make a motion to vote on it tonight, either one way or the other, yea or nay, and so the decision's done.
Yeah, I know the decision's done, but we're talking some big number changes that has crept into this project. You know, I mean, we're talking $2.1 million right now with FF&E missing. So, I mean, I'm all in favor of this. I really am. But when we started at 1.4 to 1.7, now we're at 2, now we're going to go to 2.1, and then we have another $300,000 into FF&E, we're at $2.5 million for this.
Yeah.
So, I guess my question is to Mr. Williams. I mean, you were very adamant about creep on this project. And if we were going to be able to handle the growth of what this happened from the 1.7, now we're looking at 2.5. I mean, that's $800,000 in creep.
And the question is okay, I'm trying to keep fund balance as your savings amount for the district at a certain amount. And, you know, okay, if that's adding between 300,000 or 600,000, you know, I don't,
If I can just interject, bottom line, part of that is, John and I have operated for a long time with the kind of the direction that we needed to carry over that was above $500,000. If you guys are okay with a carryover that is around 2.5 million for a period of time, realizing the commitment on both of our parts is to raise that up again, there's probably not a lot of other projects we can do with 2.5 million. Again, the carryover is for one-time expenditures, typically to see us through until the state can kick in. It also is required for revenue, for salaries. When we pay out, we need a little bunting in there. I guess it's one of those things is we can do it, but we can't just keep creeping. I guess we need to get a firm commitment once they've identified what they're going to do with that ramp, because that's going to cut it 200,000, maybe 250,000. So again, we're still talking around 2 million. We can cut our losses. Let's know we're already into that.
I guess I don't want to be the bad guy here. I really don't, because this is most definitely needed, and we all know that.
Right.
But how do we get control of the creep that we keep getting on things? We go after a indoor facility, a field house, that we've anticipated 18 million. Next thing we know, we're at $32 million on a field house, because everybody wants their own little thing involved with it. You know, and pretty soon we shoot ourselves out of the water. So how do we get control? Mr. O'Neill, you got to...
I just want to throw these numbers out. It's $2 million over 10 years. And that's what you're talking about in terms of financing, right?
No, the financing
Personal
comes,
finance.
it comes out of your savings.
Right, but it's $2 million. If it's over 10 years, that's, I don't know how long these domes will last. Say they last 10 years. There's guaranteed 200 kids in the wintertime every single day that will be using those domes. 200 minimum every single day for 10 years. It's approximately $1,000 per kid. That's if it's just 200. I'm only talking about indoor track and soccer. That's it. I'm not talking about any other group that might be using. I'm not talking about volleyball tournament. I'm not talking about wrestling tournament, basketball tournament, dance team, cheer squad, band that wants to use it to practice for state marching. None of that. Just the 200 kids that are involved in the wintertime. If it lasts 10 years, it's $1,000 per kid.
Chairman Peterson, if I may, it is a commitment. It is an investment in our kids. We have always dealt with these issues in our community. Evanston Middle School is a perfect example with what we started with and what we ended with, because we don't get individuals to bid. There's no competition when you get one bidder. The estimates of 1.4, I think were the best we could do, but when you get one bidder.
Oh, no, I completely understand that.
So
you know.
That's really, I think, the question is, do we put this off, see if we can sell the domes, and wait to get a hardened facility, which you know is going to cost more than $2 million?
And you're not going to get it.
Yeah.
You're not going to get it.
And what's hard, and you know, Chairman Peterson's very much aware, all of our approximations are on what's called RS means. And right now,
that's crazy.
They're off. We looked at the RS means numbers, and Brett and I looked, I said, add 25% more in hopes that we get that, and we were still off.
Yeah, I
it's
think the
difficult.
estimates were conservative. I thought they were on the long side, but obviously they are not.
Oh, no, I deal with this all the time. I understand where we're at on things, you know, but what I want to, as moving forward, I'm in favor of them, don't get me wrong.
Nope.
But as we move forward with some of our projects, we've got to get some of this stuff under control. You know, I
This will be
think.
the last one we'll do for
I know, for 10 years. But what I'm saying is, we are, I listened to John almost in panic mode about creep, and he's at 1.7, now we're at 2, and then we're going to add FF&E on it. I need to hear it from him that he is comfortable. I know you're really conservative. I understand that. But are you comfortable, and are we going to be able to handle the 200,000 plus over the next 10 years for the domes?
Well, it's not over the next 10 years, it's over the next 1 year.
Yeah, because we're paying it out, yes, but we're paying ourselves back.
There's no 10-year.
Yeah, we're paying ourselves back. We're writing the big check.
You're writing the check out now.
Yeah.
And so what I'm saying is, hey, we have grown accustomed to a certain amount, certain levels of fund balance, and they are not, you know, we're taking that safety net a little bit down.
A lot down.
A lot down.
What will it be? What would be the bottom line?
Well, right now, I was trying to keep it at, you know, at 4, and now I'm at 3.7, and there's a few moving parts in play, okay? Again, there's some reimbursables. If I'm not paying for this reimbursable this year, then next year I've got the reimbursable, you know.
Right.
And things. So I just don't want to be in a position where we're going, gosh, we really have to have a nice FF&E port because our kids deserve it. Yes, they do, but that's the thing. It may be that the court goes in 1 year and then other pieces get added as we go along.
Yes, one last question. I'm with you, Chairman. I'm in favor of it. I think it's we're gonna move forward, do it. But is there a specialist when we're ready to stand these things up, is there a specialist coming in, helping us step by step to make sure it's done right?
We have been in contact with ASTI, and we've been trying to nail them down. The last month and a half, they've been ghosting us. Because that was one of the things we wanted to do, was have one of their guys come out, and we've been trying for 3 months. What's that going to cost? What's that? Because I wanted to put those figures, you know, try to get those figures. And so each week we have emailed that we're in contact with. We have 3 different emails there and trying to get somebody to answer us. And I can, rightfully so, I understand. We didn't buy them from them. Yes, they were purchased, they are theirs, but they don't have any more skin in the game. So we did find the contractor, the number to the contractor of the guy who actually erected these down on the first time. We've been in contact with them, trying to get him to give us a number as well. So we're trying every way we can to ensure we have somebody who's at least had some sort of opportunity, I'll say, to build these.
And the last back pocket you take out is YouTube, right? We can YouTube it.
That's what I'm saying. Google it. We can all get the hand pump on the outside and blow her up.
It's really interesting, and I should have brought the books. I mean, they give us the Lego book, and I call it the Lego book, with instructions that are pretty detailed. And when we've talked to ASTM, when we've talked to others, they're like, oh yeah, this is easy. It takes about 15 guys. Okay, well, it takes about 15 guys when you've done this over and over again, but everybody's confident that it's not a difficult thing. There is still the unknown, and it's something in the back of our minds, okay, what is that? But reading through the book, and reading the book is one thing, watching the YouTube's another, but actually doing it is the reality, so.
So we'll keep back trying to find something
Yeah.
that's done this.
Okay.
Question, can we use any of the rec meal
facilitating.
Well, that's what was going to be my next question to you.
They got coin there that they're gonna be coming and wanting to use them, it's just a matter of time. Anyway, something to think about.
So, John, that is the question to you. On the mill and what it is intended for, can we use part of that mill for the school district as far as activities?
I know that there are some districts, for instance, Green River, that captures their own record.
Yeah.
I just don't know, in
We're going to get a
practice.
firm answer from Jeff on that, too.
Yeah.
Okay, so we can, that's what I...
Okay, in other words, does the board have unilateral discretion about where it can go and how much? In other words, the diversion. Because all of it goes, I never get any of the money. It goes directly to tenant, into their accounts. No, don't ever see it. But this is a change in the way they do it.
And that's why I suggested we do it through the agreement.
No, I know, that's what I'm saying. The agreement's inside here right now.
Yeah.
And you have, once we agree upon it, it still gives us 60 days to modify the agreement within it. So we can approve the mill for the rec, but we still have 60 days after that point to modify our agreement with them.
Amount.
Well, and they also give you 60 days to back out on it, but, or modify it.
You're saying amount, like we can adjust the amount for 60
That's
days?
what, no, I think
Just our
it's
agreement with.
just the agreement. Just,
And that could include saying, we want part of that rec
75%.
funds or whatever. That would be in the agreement, though.
We have 4 slots on that rec board.
Right.
And of course, you guys would have to approve it too, in that agreement.
no, I know, and I don't want all the money to go away from the rec center. Don't get me wrong. I think there has to be something in there, and if, like you were saying, if it is 50/50, 60/40, if there's some way we can capture some of that money that we can benefit. Bubba, what has your budget cut over the last 5 years been?
Well, it just depends on what it was, but it was pretty significant.
Yeah.
On our activity side.
I think we need to find out exactly how this
I know.
works
But if this is...
before we start
Sorry.
doing this stuff. I'm sorry. We need to find out exactly how this works before we start saying, we'll take this, we'll take that. I'm not in favor of anything until we find out exactly.
I agree.
Well, how this exactly works, because I think we're touching a real political football here if we don't do it right.
Are you talking about the rec mill?
Yes.
Yeah, that's why I think we need to get
We need to get, yeah, and I think we need to go to the county treasurer, everybody that's involved in this, yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's why I suggested maybe we not do it this year.
This year.
But again, we're still talking $200,000 a year for the next 10 years commitment, where maybe if they pay us $25,000, that would buy us equipment.
Yeah, right.
So
Yeah.
I think that's a discussion for another time, but I think it can be had. But we'll need to get a legal opinion of where we are with that.
So a year ago, excuse me.
Go ahead.
A year ago, I sat here and we talked about the stadium, and I was pretty nervous on that deal. And now, look what we've got, what we ended up with. And so, I'm nervous again, but I don't think we have any choice. I think we need to move forward with this, and let's, hopefully, everything works out. I think it will, but let's, if we need a motion, then I'll make a motion that we give Jaron the okay to move ahead with this project.
No, wait, we can't do that. We have to modify the
Need a motion to modify.
need a motion to modify.
Oh, that's right.
The agenda, and then we have to add it to our action items.
All right.
Yes, add
So-
to action item F.
Yes, we will have to add it to F, to vote move on the domes.
Okay.
So that's where I was going to go next. We need to move on. We've beat this thing to death.
Yep.
So I need to have a motion to modify the agenda on the action items and add action item F to approve the finances for the domes.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion?
Jenny, and who's the second?
Dan. No discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. So we will add action item F to the agenda. When we get to that, we will vote on it, so.
Thank you, Chairman
All right,
Peterson,
thank you.
members of the board. Appreciate the conversation.
Okay. All right. Moving on, discussion item C, Region 5 BOCES mill level.
Chairman Peterson, I'm willing to start the discussion if you'd like. I was asked to add this after the presentation by Mr. Mayor last month. CBARV is asking that we increase the mill to 0.5 of the mill instead of 0.2. If you want my opinion, I'm sure you do, is I don't think we do that. I think in terms of raising taxes right now, with 9 votes, probably not the way to go. There is kind of some new light. I'm a little disappointed. You already have heard that what the 0.2 of a mill provides us, it's about a $70,000 commitment that we pay CBARV. I've always been very supportive of it because it's services that are needed in our state. Unfortunately, only 14 school districts support it. They can't function on that. So you know that for a long time, we paid full price. Now what we get for our mill is maybe first in line and a small discount. Probably doesn't account for the $70,000 that we're assessing in taxes. The other thing that now we're getting, which is extremely disappointing, is we cannot compete with CBARV's salaries. And CBARV has selectively taken our staff members. So we lost 2 last year, 2 of our most experienced, 2 very talented teachers. They tried to attract another one of our teachers this year. I'm all for supporting teachers doing the best they can wherever they go. We always support them. But CBARV is picking our pockets, and we're trying to support them. It just hasn't flown well with me. When we're talking about competition, the starting salary for this individual is $115,000. So I don't fault the teacher for saying, yeah, I'll go do that for 3 years. And again, one of the best teachers we have in our district. Haven't made the decision yet, so we've got our fingers crossed. But it just smells funny that we've lost 3 teachers from Davis. This will be the 3rd teacher from Davis that we've lost to CBARV, and we can't compete.
And where did Mr. Mayor?
Lost Mr. Mayor from here.
From what school?
He was the district special ed coordinator.
Yeah.
So, anyway, I'm just disappointed with that, but this is up for a vote next month, but I know you guys wanted to discuss it, so where you are and what you want to make a motion to do next month is up to you guys.
So I guess it'll come up for an action item next month in
Yes.
July. Okay, so we don't have to move on in at all tonight, so, all right. Go ahead.
It would be nice to have a direction.
Okay, because I can add it to the agenda tonight, because I think I know where everybody's going to go.
I'm going to be
I think you do know where this is going to go.
at the budget hearing, the next, unless you have a special.
My original recommendation was going to be to twilight this, let them know we'll pay it for 1 more year, and then next year it will go away. That was until they continue to steal our staff. I just don't know if I can support that.
My question is, what happens if say we vote for it to go away, period? What happens to that 68,000? Does it go
It's not
back?
levied.
So then,
Our assessed mills go to 28.5 instead of 28.7. Taxpayers save $2 or $3.
and we can't levy it somewhere else?
No.
Yeah, except if they keep doubling our property taxes, it's more than $2 or $3.
Yeah.
So
Amen to that one.
my viewpoint's fairly firm on this, and the sooner we vote on it, the happier I'm going to be.
So I guess we need to decide if we want to move this to an action item and modify our agenda again. So we will do that. So I need a motion to add action item G for the mill levy, the .2 mill for CBAR-V. Whether we approve it or not, that's what action item G is going to be. So, to approve the mill. So,
Question?
go ahead.
Do we need to address he wanted an increase from .2 to .5. Do we need to vote on that first?
I think what you're voting on now is to add it to the action items. When you get to the action items, any of you can make a motion to do, raise it to .5,
Get rid of it
.2, or do away with it in general.
Okay.
I think the short version is what he was requesting is essentially irrelevant to what we're doing here.
For this original, this motion,
Okay.
just add it.
Okay, so,
I'll second that it gets added to the action items. He already first did it.
Ryan did.
Oh, okay.
Ryan motioned. To move it to the action.
Apparently, we are adding action item G to our agenda on moving on the mill levy for CBAR-V, the .2 mill.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
We need a
Vote. All in favor?
vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. All right. I was writing stuff down. Simple mind, I can't multitask, so. All right, so we've added a couple of action items on there. I guess we're moving on to public comments, so do we have anybody out there?
Springers? Nope.
Pink Floyd? Anybody out?
So, Mr. Chair, I'm Shad Hamilton, the principal at Horizon High School, address 400 Riverbend, Mountain View, Wyoming. I think you'll see in there a letter of resignation. It's hard for me. Horizon's been awesome. This district's been absolutely awesome to me. I've learned so much. An opportunity came up in April. I didn't anticipate it. They needed a SPED director. I applied and they offered it to me.
Where at? I didn't see that.
In Mountain View.
Oh, Mountain View, really?
Yeah.
I was there 5 years.
Yeah. I lived there. I lived there for 7 years. So I accepted it. They're having their board meeting tonight, and they approved it, so I hope they approve my resignation. But I just want to say thank you for the opportunity here and trusting me with the rising kids. And I'm not the best speaker. I think I probably wrote it better than I can ever say it, but the admin here have been just unbelievable. We really are leading the way across the state with HRS and PLC. I've learned so much about that I work with principals across the state, and I'll continue that work, and I hope to continue some of that work through the association with whoever ends up at Horizon, because we have some really good work there going. I just submitted the application for full model PLC status today. I think we'll get that, so that'll be coming across hopefully this summer. And I want to continue all of that stuff that's going on too. And so I just want to say thanks.
Thank you for everything you've done.
You're a good man. It's a
We'll miss you.
big loss to this district.
But I'm not far. All you can do is email or call.
Well, I'll follow that and echo what Chad has said. As you, I'm sure know, I put in my resignation as well. This winter did me in, to be honest. My address is 108 Seminole for another few weeks, and then it'll be Maricopa, Arizona. So I'm going to slide out into retirement and enjoy some warm weather for a while. But this district has been amazing. I've only got 2 districts as far as my work experience, and this is far superior to what I came from. The board has been very supportive. It's so nice to not have, I dealt with a lot of combative people that really didn't like food service at all and didn't support it. So I appreciate the support that I've had here. Administration has been amazing, and this town is a great town to live in. So I will miss this place, I will miss my staff and everything that has happened here, but it's time to move on.
You won't miss winter.
I will not miss winter, not even a little bit.
5 million people where you're going. I was raised out there.
That's okay, I'll take it.
5 million people and more sunshine.
And lots more sunshine.
There's a lot more smiles down there.
Yes. So thank you all, I appreciate everything.
No, thank you, and I'm going to tell you, thank you from the community. Not just this board, but what you've done for this community is huge. You know, when we went through the big trials of COVID, you stepped up and you provided a great service.
Fed a lot of kids.
Thank you.
Amazing job.
You did, so, thank you.
Yep, I believe in God, and I believe God put me here so that I could help us get through COVID. So that was my point.
Thank you.
So, thank you.
Any
No
other
more
comments?
retirements.
Are we done? Anybody else coming forward to resign? Okay.
Winter took a lot.
Okay, if that is the end of the public comments, we'll move on to our action items. Action item A, personnel.
Chairman Peterson, members of the board, it's actually divided into 4 categories. The first one are resignations, which include Director Martin and Principal Hamilton. We'll miss them greatly. Their service here was exceptional, and you'll always have friends here in United County. So, I don't mind losing Chad to UNF4. Like I said, they're neighbors. So I recommend that you approve these resignations as listed.
Okay, I need a motion to approve the resignations as identified.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the 2 resignations as identified.
Second.
I have a motion and I have a second. Any discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes carry. Thank you again, both of you. So, action item, personnel number 2.
Chairman Peterson, I recommend that you approve the leave of absence as listed in the directory.
Okay, so I need a motion to approve the leave of absence that was in the directory as I identified.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make that motion.
Second that motion.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries.
Chairman Peterson, the third is certified contracts for the individuals listed. Notice that one of them is coming back. He left for a year, missed us, and will come back to the high school. So recommend that you approve those contracts as listed.
Okay. Is there any discussions at all? Nothing? I need a motion to approve the certified staff contracts as identified.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make that motion to approve the identified.
Yep.
Second that motion.
I have a motion and I have a second. Any discussions? No discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries.
And finally, Mr. Chairman, is an extension of the superintendent's contract. I'll let you guys make that recommendation.
Mr. Chairman, I recommend that we approve the contract for Superintendent Thomas.
I'll also approve that.
So that did not show up on my action items, number 4?
It's still under personnel.
It's under personnel on the back. Okay, the very bottom down there. Okay. Huh?
Joel.
So I have a motion and I have a second. Any discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay.
So you just clicked on
But you have to bring donuts.
Okay.
Yeah, donuts.
Chairman Peterson, the next on the list is B, is to approve first reading administration of stock opiate antagonists. We have compared ours to what's out there in the state, very similar. We recommend that you approve it at first reading.
Okay. So I need a motion to approve the first reading of administration of stock opiate antagonist.
So moved.
I have a motion.
Second.
I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. Action item C.
Chairman Peterson, members of the board, just happy to ratify the meet and confer agreement that was made between the Evanston Education Association and the school board administration. As always, the EEA was very professional. Appreciate the way they deal and the way they take their members' wants and desires and bring them to us. So I think it was a successful meet and confer, and recommend that you ratify that agreement that was signed by myself and EDA.
Thank you. Being part of it, fantastic job. Thank you very much for your efforts and for our teachers. So I need a motion to approve the meet and confer agreement.
So moved.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries.
Chairman Peterson, members of the board, I recommend that you approve the bus excess. If you have questions, Travis is back there, he can answer the questions for us.
You guys have any questions for Travis at all?
Is there a market for these buses?
Yes.
Okay.
So you're going through the surplus with the buses, or is there another market that you can kind of go through with it?
Well, we have our options, either doing it through the paper or doing it on public surplus. We've actually had quite a bit of local interest in them, so I think we're just going to put them in the paper this time around to sell them the highest bidder.
Okay. Fantastic.
By the way, it doesn't benefit us locally, but it does benefit taxpayers in Wyoming. The state recaptures all that.
Yeah.
Okay.
But we do want to get the highest amount.
Yeah, amount for it.
Help.
Okay.
Taxpayers.
Could be my house with that.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
All right, I need a motion to approve the bus excess.
So moved.
So moved, second.
So I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. Down to action item E.
Chairman Peterson, members of the board, I recommend that you approve the special leave donation. This is one of the many nice things we do for our employees. We had an employee that ran out of leave. The school where she taught donated additional leave to cover the days that she didn't have coverage. And just a nice thing. Appreciate the school that did it. But if you want more information, I can provide it. I just didn't want to do it publicly.
It's fine.
I recommend that you approve the special leave donation.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the special leave donation.
Second.
I have a motion and I have a second. Any discussion? None? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. Down to action item F.
Chairman Peterson, I recommend that a member of the board makes a recommendation.
I will make a motion to approve the funding for the construction of the domes as discussed earlier today.
Second.
Who was the second?
Dan.
Dan.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. Congratulations, move forward. Get her built.
Keep it up to us.
Yes.
It's a great thing for the kids and great thing for this community. Just lots of questions. Keep the creep. You're kind of like that little mole in my backyard. I'm done with them. They're just creeping everywhere. So.
I thought you were calling Jared a mole.
I'm not calling you a mole. Just in general. That was a general statement. So.
Okay, I was like, that could be.
I'm trying to back out on that one, so don't be offended, hopefully. Yeah, keep going and digging deeper. Yeah, just like the mole. So. All right. So I need to move on to action item G. And if anybody wants to make a motion on that, that is for the mill, the .2 mill for the CRV. C-Bar. I wrote that. C-Bar.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we hold a vote on whether to continue providing a mill to C-Bar-V.
So I think your motion can be to just stop.
Just either stop or pull it.
Just stop.
Yeah. So the motion is to whether to approve the .2 mill or not approve it. So,
Yeah.
so
Okay.
the motion would be to.
How do you want me to put that?
So we don't have to address the increase.
No, but we can't say nay
Okay.
on the thing. So what we're doing is we're trying to, whether we're going to approve it or not.
Okay, so let's verbalize the motion as I move that we vote to approve the .2 mill.
Yes.
Second that motion.
For C-Bar-V.
So I have a motion and I have a second. Is there any discussion? No discussion.
I think,
go ahead.
discussion, I think even at the .2 rate, it's a lot of money to be spending at the taxpayer's dollar. Plus, we have to turn around and pay more. Plus, we're losing our teachers to have it at all.
I could not agree
And I
more.
think if we can, if we still get the same benefits as far, I mean, granted, we might have to pay more to have a student there, if we have to have a student there. But I still just, I think that's already an insane amount of money for us to utilize one spot. And I think it's gonna keep going up with where it's located. Jackson, Wyoming is just, it's just not a good spot to try to
It is a
keep costs decent.
never-ending lollipop.
Nope.
That you continue to take a lick at.
So that's my only concern.
Nope, I agree with that. So I have a motion.
And you had a second?
And I had a second. We had discussion. All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Nay. So nays have it, motion fails. Thank you. That is the last of our action items. So at this time, we will move to board roundtable. Has anybody got any comments at this time?
I would just like to say how wonderful graduation was. I know it was up in the air whether it would be outside or inside, but I would like to thank the staff and everybody that made that possible. It was fantastic, so did a great job.
I agree. I had my first opportunity to hand out diplomas on the stage. It was a wonderful experience. I cannot wait to do it again.
Cool.
And I'd like to say too, the Horizon graduation turned out really well. So I know Vicki did most of the work, I think. But it was neat to watch Mr. Hamilton interact with those kids. You can just tell, I mean, he joked with them a little bit, and you could just tell there's a special bond there. So we're definitely gonna miss you, and hope you show up to the next Horizon graduation. So, you've done a really good job with a lot of those kids.
Anybody else?
I just have one, I got an email and I lost it, but sometime this month, there's a meeting with the school, with the legislature, with the facilities.
School Facilities Commission.
Yeah, and so my question is are we getting any traction with this, or is it just a lot of talk?
Trustee Wheeler, or members of the board, we don't really have anything on the board. And Jaron probably would answer that better in terms of large projects that we're looking at funding. Schools, we're really not on the list of anything replaced, but we do have probably some large projects that are in the pipe.
So, great question. This last year, they actually did a facility assessments and walkthroughs of all of our buildings. I've got a binder down at my office that talks about the things that were needing to start to look at. They are supposed to, by August, September of this year, start to give us a list of our, what we call our ones and twos. Like, one we know that we have here is our windows here at the ESC. Although they look pretty, they're not efficient, they're falling down. A little bit of duct tape keeps them up. So we know that those are things, and those will be the things that we start to address. Now, what's interesting, if you'll remember, we just recently completed our water project. And our water project at the high school, the domestic water project, actually wasn't major maintenance. It was really kind of part of a capital project. And we went to start to fill out the information to express interest for some more of the capital funds, and the first thing they said is you can't put roofs and you can't put HVAC on there, which are two of our biggest costs for anything. As you might recall, to redo the roof over at North is going to be, if we leave it asphalt, it'll be about $3 million, or about $2.1 million. If we go with a metal roof, you're looking at about $4 million. Davis, again, kind of in that $6 million range. So I sent an email to them and said, okay, so what can we put it towards? And they said parking lots, but we don't usually use funds for parking lots. And so we're a little bit confused. We're, I guess, waiting on some further direction as to how we can use some of these capital funds. As a board, you guys recognize we've got 5 buildings that were all built in the early 80s that are approaching 40 years old. 40 years doesn't seem to be too old, but it's starting to see some wear and tear. I'm in that category as well. But for a building, it starts to see wear and tear. We have a lot of usage. And it used to be the state would start looking at buildings to replace between the 40 and 50 year mark. They're not. And that kind of scares me a little bit, and that's why we've put the money we have into new boilers. We put the money into our domestic water. We put, a lot of things that aren't physically seen, we've been putting money into. And so, as we learn more, Mr. Wheeler, we will try to utilize as many of those state funds as we can, so that I'm not having to dip into our major maintenance. But even major maintenance, this year alone, will be close to $2.3 million of the 2.5 we get, just for summer projects. Having a conversation with one of our principals next year, just looking at replacing a playground and carpet at that school will be in excess of about $1.5 million. That's quickly on 2 projects. That's how quickly that'll go. So.
Chairman Peterson, members of the board, if I can, this may, there's no politics involved in this, but that's why we joined with the lawsuit. One of the components of the lawsuit, educational funding, deals with school facilities. This year, they approved $90 million for capital construction projects. That's 2 schools in the state of Wyoming. Maybe. One high school and maybe a smaller elementary. So that's part of the issue. The Constitution in the state of Wyoming, the state is responsible for these facilities. And I think we'll see some changes when that lawsuit goes through. So hopefully, but it's time to start getting back on those lists. It took, I think, 8 years before we finally got Horizon and then Evanston Middle School approved on those lists, where we continue to get bumped. So it's about time again. But all that's dictated by these walkthroughs they do. Good question, Mr. Reed.
So I got one comment. We're losing 2 administrators, but I want to thank all of the administrators in this district. You guys do a phenomenal job, and sometimes I don't think you hear that enough. Your efforts are well observed and by the board, and thank you a lot to each one of you. So.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Echo that, yes.
Before we stop the roundtable, I'd like to notify that I will not be here for the next meeting. I'll be in California.
Are you rubbing it in? What are you doing? Thank you.
I am taking my daughter to a motorcycle race.
There you go. She's participating?
No, she just wants to watch.
Just wanted to watch it. All right, fantastic. All righty, any other roundtable items? None? Okay, so I need a motion to leave the regularly scheduled Union County School Board meeting and to enter into the executive session number 2.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and I have a second. Any discussion?
Will there be any action afterwards?
No.
So you'll adjourn from the executive?
We will adjourn from the executive session. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. Thank you, everybody, for being here.